That's all I had to completely change my life. I had 2 months to go from broke to financially free. It seemed impossible, right? But sometimes, it's when your back is against the wall that you realize how much you can really fight. Let me take you back to the moment where I had nothing. No savings, no job, no prospects, just desperation. But I had one thing that no one could take away from me, the desire to change everything. It was the first Monday of a new month. Rent was due, and my checking account balance was a laughable $17.35. I remember sitting at the kitchen table, the walls closing in, my stomach twisted in knots of dread. Every notification on my phone was either a bill or a debt collector reminding me of how much further I had to fall. And it wasn't just the money, it was the overwhelming sense of failure. You see, I'd always prided myself on being self-sufficient, but life had other plans. I lost my job 2 months prior due to downsizing. With no savings, my debts started to spiral out of control. That morning, as I stared into the cold reality of my situation, I knew I was at rock bottom. Tears burned in my eyes as I realized, if I don't figure this out, I'm going to lose everything. My apartment, my car, my dignity. It was a sobering realization, and for the first time in my life, I felt utterly powerless. But then, something snapped inside me. There was this fire buried beneath all the fear and anxiety that suddenly flared up. I wasn't about to let my life fall apart without a fight. I decided right then and there I was going to make a change, no matter how impossible it seemed. I started researching obsessively. Every article about financial independence, every YouTube video promising quick success, every self-help book claiming to have the secret. At first, I was overwhelmed. Everyone had a different opinion on what to do. Real estate, stocks, side hustles, flipping products on eBay, it was all a mess of information. But there was one thing that all the successful people seemed to have in common. They took control of their mindset first. Money, it seemed, wasn't just about strategy, it was about belief. You had to believe that you could be financially free. So I made a promise to myself. For the next 60 days, I would focus on two things: building wealth and building resilience. I didn't know how I would get there, but I committed to the journey. There was no plan B. Failure wasn't an option. I created a daily schedule that included learning new skills, cutting down expenses, and finding creative ways to earn money. It wasn't glamorous work, but it was necessary. I started small, really small. I signed up for every gig app I could think of: food delivery, ride sharing, freelance writing gigs, and even selling old clothes and furniture online. My days were long and grueling. I woke up at 5 a.m. and didn't go to bed until midnight most days. I was running on coffee and sheer determination. Every dollar I made felt like a tiny victory. The tension was still there. Each day the bills kept coming and the deadline loomed closer. Rent was due in less than 3 weeks and I wasn't even close to having enough. The pressure was suffocating, but I kept telling myself, keep moving, just keep moving. Just when I thought I was getting into a rhythm, life threw another curveball. My car broke down in the middle of a delivery shift, and the repair cost was devastating. I couldn't afford to fix it, which meant I had to find another way to hustle without transportation. I remember sitting in the mechanic's shop, my head in my hands, wondering if it was all for nothing. The weight of it all nearly broke me. I thought about giving up. Maybe this was just my fate, to struggle, to never really make it out of this hole. But then I thought about why I started. I thought about the alternative, going back to that cold kitchen table, staring at an empty account, letting life slip out of my hands. I couldn't do it. I wouldn't do it. So I pivoted. I sold my car for parts and used the money to invest in an online course for freelance marketing. I knew it was a risk, but I had to bet on myself. The gamble paid off. After weeks of pitching myself to countless clients, I landed my first major freelance project. It wasn't a fortune, but it was more money than I had seen in months. That first payment hit my account, and for the first time, I felt like I was in control again. I started scaling up. I learned faster, worked smarter, and took on bigger projects. The hours were still long, but they didn't feel as draining anymore. Each job brought me closer to the goal. By day 40, I was on a roll. The fear of failure had transformed into a burning hunger for success. I started seeing money not as the enemy, but as a tool, something I could master. I reinvested every dollar I made into building more skills, taking calculated risks, and diversifying my income streams. I started trading stocks on the side, and while I didn't know everything, I played it safe with steady, small investments. It wasn't glamorous, but it was working. For the first time, I had enough to pay my rent and start paying down my debt. The weight that had been crushing me for so long was finally lifting. But there was still one question burning in the back of my mind. Could I truly call myself financially free in just 60 days? As the 60-day mark drew closer, I felt a mixture of excitement and panic. I had come so far, but I wasn't there yet. My debts were shrinking, but they weren't gone. My income was growing, but it wasn't stable enough to relax. So I pushed harder than ever. I started waking up even earlier, staying up even later, squeezing every last bit of productivity out of my day. I cut out distractions, avoided social events, and doubled down on my work. Every second was a battle. Exhaustion clawed at me, but I was too close to stop now. Day 60 arrived like the climax of a suspenseful movie. I was sitting at my desk, staring at my laptop, heart pounding. I had been doing the math over and over again, but I still wasn't sure if I had truly made it. I logged into my accounts, and there it was. Not only had I made enough to cover my living expenses and debts for the month, but I had an emergency fund saved and a steady flow of income from my freelance work. It wasn't millions, but it was freedom. Financial freedom wasn't about a specific number. It was about knowing that I could control my future, that I wasn't stuck in survival mode anymore. Achieving financial freedom in 60 days didn't mean that I never had to worry about money again, but it did mean that I had shifted my mindset, my habits, and my entire relationship with money. I learned that the journey to financial freedom is never really over. It's about constantly growing, adapting, and staying resilient no matter what life throws at you. More than anything, I learned that you are your greatest asset. The moment I started believing in myself, everything changed. I went from someone who thought they were destined to fail to someone who knew they could win. And now, I want you to know that it's possible. Whether you're starting from zero or from below, you have the power to change your financial future. Because if I could do it, if I could go from $17.35 to financial freedom in 60 days, then so can you. The road to financial freedom isn't easy, but the hardest part is taking that first step. And once you do, there's no telling how far you can go.